I think there's a lot of confusion. They know they need to do something in AI. There's a lot of experimentation coming on, but then as they are implementing it, they're finding the things that work really well, the things that they're ready for, and they're also then identifying gaps in how well they're prepared to utilize it. So there's a little bit, in some cases, there's a bit of paralysis. I'm not quite sure which lane to go down here because all of a sudden there's all sorts of different options. But then there's also a lot of experimentation, was exciting, that people are saying, hey, we got to try different things out to figure out what's going to work.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Grow IT podcast. One of your hosts here, Trey King. And today we're very excited to have our guest, Mr. Greg DeVore from ScreenSteps. And we'll be diving into his story a little bit today, as well as what his company does, and then, as always, engaging insights into the technology industry. So make sure to stick around for this one. But without further ado, Greg, welcome. Thanks for hopping on today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Excellent. Greg, I think let's kick things off. If you could kindly, just a bit of an introduction from your side and, tell us a bit about your background, a couple of snippets of your story.
Yeah, I don't really have the traditional background for a tech startup. I have a music degree in composition and film scoring and worked in that industry for a
What?
while. But then, yeah, so
Awesome.
I went to the Berklee College of Music and worked in both Boston and LA for a while in that industry. But then, a little over 20 years ago, started this company with my brother, really because of some family situations that happened. My first son was born very premature and couldn't get health insurance as an independent musician. So a
Yeah,
lot of kind of life events led me to this place where I started this company 20 years ago. I've been doing it for that a long time.
that's awesome. Greg, tell me, but how did you get into specifically this business sector, right? What was it that sparked this initial interest in it that obviously made you so passionate about what you're doing now?
Well, really, my brother and I ended up with an opportunity. So GE Ultrasound Systems came to us and said, "Hey, we need training around our 3D, 4D ultrasound systems." They had
Yeah,
these really expensive systems that sonographers and doctors were struggling to use. And so we went in and looked at how they were building training. We built some, it was back like CD-ROM multimedia training. But we came up with some technology that reduced the time it took to build that training from like 6 months down to 2 weeks. So we said, okay, let's productize this. And we started out with just a little, we went from, consulting to have a little product that was like $20, a little utility that we sold. And then that grew and grew a little bit more. And companies said, hey, we want to do this and we want to do that. And we just kept kind of growing it organically
yeah,
until, it is what it is today, which is ScreenSteps is what we call a knowledge operations platform. It's how do you make your knowledge, how do you capture the knowledge that employees need to work in
yeah.
your business and deliver it to them in a way that they can find and follow it on their own without having to turn to a supervisor.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I can't wait to hear a bit more on this. But tell me, based on your expertise, what are the current trends in the market in your industry, that you're aware of? What ways are the winds blowing these days?
It's kind of like the winds are blowing everything up. So you've got a lot of disruption in this area. So you've got, it's really interesting because what we do,
Yeah,
nobody cared about for a long time, right? And then all of a sudden now, as AI has come in, it's
mm,
highlighted the need for the problem that we solve. So AI, as you're using AI in your organization, and think about it, you're trying to support employees and give them guidance or customers or customer-facing employees. AI is it's reliant on the domain specific knowledge that you feed it. And what organizations are finding is AI companies are saying coming in and saying, "Hey, give us your junk drawer of knowledge. We'll
yeah,
put it in and we'll make it all work." Well, that junk drawer of knowledge approach doesn't work with operational knowledge because that knowledge it changes all the time. It's not like training AI on the world's best books. Those are going to
yeah.
stay the same. But how I do things or the rules around our business those are changing all the time. And so they're finding, hey, this isn't working because we don't have a system for really ensuring that we have content that's findable, followable, and understandable by either a machine or a person. And so it's highlighting the need for the type of solution that we create, and that's creating some opportunity for us.
Excellent. Having said that, what is your current take on the market sentiment?
On the sorry, say that again.
The market sentiment. What is your current take on that from a let's say from a purchasing power point of view, and what are people leaning towards these days?
Well, I think there's a lot of confusion. So there's a lot of they know they need to do something in AI. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of experimentation coming on. But then as they are implementing it, they're finding the things that work really well, the things that they're ready for, and they're also then identifying gaps in how well they're prepared to utilize it. So there's a little bit, in some cases, there's a bit of paralysis of
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure which lane to go down here because all of a sudden there's all sorts of different options. But then there's also a lot of experimentation was exciting that people are saying, hey, we got to try a lot of different things out to figure out what's going to work.
What's going to work? Lately, what I picked up with our clients as well is, there's this climate of how can I say, very much optimism, right? That's been shown, but cautious as well. The Whereas a lot of people is concerned that it's going to take over jobs, right? And other people say, no, it's just there to enhance people's jobs, right? So it's always that debate I've been at it like for the last month,
Yeah.
where obviously a lot of founders of companies have different opinions about it, but it's definitely the buzzword. It's quite something that I do believe is going to change the world quite a lot. And well, specifically, I mean, like you said, in your company and what you guys offer as well. To latch on that, I think let me ask the burning question. Please explain or tell us what is it that your company does.
Yeah, so our company is really designed to help you capture knowledge, the operational knowledge of your business in a
Yeah,
way that is both usable and maintainable by the company. So if you think about it, like you've got documentation tools that are all about like, let's just get this down on paper, but they're not designed to deal with complexity in procedures or with the ever-changing nature of those procedures. You think any business that documents their procedures, they're out of date in a week. And
yeah,
so ours is a system that helps get that information out of people's heads very quickly, get it formatted in a way that somebody else can use it without having to turn to an expert to guide them, and designs it in a system that can be maintained so that you can keep it up to date so people can trust it in there.
that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I'm just thinking, I mean, and I believe your markets, right, from a demographic point of view, it's so wide.
Yeah.
Because obviously every business needs training, right? But that is definitely something that I can already see just out of my history and my background, where I can see, geez, there's a lot of value in something like that. Um, you know, out of your own words, then, what would you say is like the most out of all these values you've mentioned? What is the most significant value that you guys bring to the business that that your clients would say, man, this is what works for us really well.
Really, the core of it is we take a business that is relying on what we call tribal knowledge, and we help
Yeah,
them move to a place where they're relying on guided knowledge. So, tribal knowledge means I've got to ask my coworker, my supervisor, how do I do this? I learn by observing others or shadowing or reaching out on Slack. And the vast majority of businesses, that's how they operate. You have to be there for months or in some cases even years before you can really work independently.
yeah,
And so what we do is we say, okay, we help them. We both have a methodology and a technology. So I wrote a book called Find and Follow. It's a methodology of how you capture this information, how you deliver it.
yeah,
When they do this, it's life changing. So we helped one group. It was taking them 12 months before a new hire would be able to work independently in the organization. They reduced that down to 8 weeks. So that's a huge 10 months of time that they've cut off on how long it takes for someone to be independent.
yeah,
Or another group reduced the time it took them to adjust to a change in procedure in the organization. It was taking them 2 weeks to do that. They reduced that down to less than a day. So this
jeez,
helps them to be, super
awesome.
agile and people to be independent, confident, much more productive in the work they're doing.
Tell me, Greg, is there maybe an example you can tell me without, naming the clients, but where you guys have, implemented something like this, just a bit of a case study, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I'll give you an example of we work with a medical device manufacturer, and
Yeah,
they were working with their contact center where they're having to support these devices over the phone. So you can imagine in the middle of the night, somebody's calling up, alarms are going off on the machine, a bit
yeah.
of a panic. That's a stressful thing, and you're having to troubleshoot this over the phone. When they came to us, they said if somebody doesn't break down in tears during training, we know they're not getting it. That's how complicated this stuff was, right? And they get so
Yeah.
nervous before they took that first call. It's been amazing to see what they've done. And, we've worked with them, but they've done a lot of the work themselves and using our
Yeah.
tools. But what they were able to do is they moved to a fully remote training, dramatically decreased the amount of time people were spending in training, and most importantly, they had like all these practices of here's how you're supposed to troubleshoot these things. But everybody would kind of do their own thing. They'd start there, but it's hard to remember while you're on call, so you get your own system.
Mm,
They were
mm,
able
mm.
to then standardize that. Our system works kind of like a GPS. So they bring it up and it's guiding them based on the responses the customer is giving them. It's saying, now do this or now do that. They're able to standardize on it. They had a feedback loop so the agents can say, hey, this is a way we could improve this or this didn't work. And now as they're improving it, everybody's adapting at the same time. They saved, $2.3 million in machines not being shipped back that weren't broken. Because before
Ah,
getting troubleshooted correctly,
yeah.
and now they are, and so it was a huge savings for the business.
No, I actually understand. That's excellent. That's excellent. Tell me were there like when you guys obviously still the business is always ever evolving and growing, right? But would you mind, give us an example of, things that you might have struggled with on this road before you guys, before the business like uh, you know, got on the train and just went forward, right? Is there maybe a challenge or two that you can mention, what you guys had on this road, building the business, and then if you don't mind just to mention, what happened that changed that environment.
Yeah, so we bootstrapped the business for a long time,
Yeah,
and in the space we were in, we originally we were really just a knowledge-based tool, and you're competing against organizations that are much bigger, but also a lot of products just include a knowledge base as part of what their offering is. So if you have like a help desk, it's got a knowledge base built in.
yeah,
So we had two challenges. First, we have to create a compelling reason of why you would purchase us if you've already got something that, included, what we do along with it.
something in place.
Second, yeah, exactly. And second, we have to compete against people that have much more, more resources than we have.
Yeah,
So what we did is we had a few customers that were just, I mean, get amazing results, and then we'd have some customers that would get just okay results. And one of my brothers that works with me, I said, I want you to go and I want you to work with those customers that are just killing it. Figure out exactly what they're doing. And so he'd go there and he'd figure that out. We'd come back and we'd come up with this recipe that if everybody applied this recipe, it'd work. Well, we'd try it and it wouldn't quite work. And so we'd tweak it again and then we'd try the recipe again and tweak it again. And we kept refining it over time until we came up with it. If somebody applies this recipe when they're doing this, it works every time. And that's our
wow,
framework we call find and follow. And so it's a system we take people through when they're building these things out that
yeah.
helps get those amazing results where they're dropping, training times by 80% and doubling employee productivity. And that's really once we got that part out, it wasn't just the technology, but there was a methodology that went along with it. That's when things really started to change for us.
My word, what a good story. If you don't mind, if we can maybe step back a bit and just, would like your opinion on a business in general. Uh, what type of mindset, Greg, would you say is needed to be a successful founder of a company?
I think you have to have a strong vision of what you want to accomplish, but you need to be focused on the problem and not your solution. So if you
Right.
become focused on a problem and you're really passionate about solving that problem, then you'll
Yeah.
probably find out that the solution you come up with will be different than the one you originally envisioned. But that's what really is going to drive value for others is not the specific solution that you create. It's the problem that you really focus on solving. So I think that's a key thing.
That yeah, that's quite profound. And having said that, what are some of the most important things that you've learned in your career? And the reason why I'm asking you this is that we've got a lot of listeners that want to go out there and do their own thing. Or it might be that they want to pivot wherever they're at, or in a direction. Also, is there maybe something, one or two things that you could say, guys, this is what I've learned that made a big difference?
I'd say, I mean, everybody says this, but it's understanding your customers' problems better than they do. If you only understand those problems at a surface level, it's really
Yeah,
hard to solve them. And if you just do what your customers ask you to do, you're not going to actually help them progress. So what you need to do is look at what they're asking you to do, but then be able to go beyond that and understand what's the root cause of the problems they're experiencing so that you can bring a better way of thinking about it, a better solution to them. You're working with them to create it, but you're not just kind of being an order taker there of, oh, they want this feature, let's put that in.
right, right.
Let's really look at how do we solve that problem at a higher level.
High level. Yo, Greg, you've provided some good golden nuggets as we call them. This has been. I'm so glad I got you. Eventually, we got you on. Very happy that you were here. I can fully understand why your business is so successful. I mean, just listening to those value points you mentioned earlier, I can, I get it. And I wish you guys all the luck going forward. This has been an excellent conversation. Tell me, Greg, where can the listeners get hold of you guys?
I'm very active on LinkedIn, so you can find me there, Greg DeVore on LinkedIn, CEO ScreenSteps. You can find my book, Find and Follow, at findandfollowbook.com, and then my company's at screensteps.com.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, Greg. Appreciate it.
No problem. Great to talk with you.